Ladies and gentlemen, happy Sunday and welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We're here and we're talking about the Showhio of Michigan. Hi, Neil. How are you?
Showhio of Michigan.
I'm standing by this. This is a real thing.
Oh, man.
I'm making
You're
it
really
a thing.
doubling down on it. I appreciate the effort, the commitment. That's really good. But I don't know what it means. Still started yesterday. Didn't know what it meant then. But
Hey, it started on Friday, okay?
Okay. Well, thanks to everybody for tuning in, interrupting your football watching.
Yes.
To hear us talk about Goose.
Yeah, based on the cheers coming from outside right now, I think the Bills just scored. I'm still here at Borderland Festival. It's the third day. Started off the afternoon with a nice Karina Reichman set. Saw Eric Krasno and Stanton Moore, which was pretty cool. Looking forward to Mo tonight, starting in just an hour and a half. But we're not here to talk about that, of course. We're here to talk about Goose in Detroit last night. If I'm not mistaken, this is their first time playing within the city limits of Detroit since January 2018. A good friend of ours, first show, who's actually joining us today. And I think we should bring on our guests.
That sounds like a really, really good idea.
We've got pod veteran Jeff, Captain Incredible, and we've got long-time listener, first-time caller, maybe,
sure.
for lack of a better term. We've got Emily.
Love that.
Hi, Jeff and Emily. How you guys doing?
Hey, guys. Having a good day.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Thank you both for being here today. Emily, glad you could join us. Jeff, thank you for stopping on your run and letting us see, Terminator, Captain Terminator, if you will, with those shades, not messing around. That didn't mean take them off. There we go. So
it's bright out.
So how did you feel? I want to start with you, Jeff. You're a hometown Detroit guy. Your first Goose show was January 2018 at the L Club in Detroit. How did it feel getting, at long last, 5.5 years later, another Goose show in your hometown?
It was great. They've played in the Detroit area a couple times since then, just to be clear. But this was the first time back within the Detroit city limits. The other shows have been in the suburb. And so to go from, opening up for Spafford in this little bar that was like 300 people in it. And I think, it was like Peter's second or third show in the band or something like that. To go from that to, effectively selling out just really big ass room in one of the nicest places to see a show in Detroit that holds about 5,000 people. It was cool. And they brought it like this. It was a good feeling. Did not imagine this when I saw them open for Spafford 5.5 years ago, even though that was a really good set and turned my head.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that the vibes were high last night?
The vibes were high. Good friend Hap was supposed to be at the show, which would have raised the vibes even higher.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, but people there, they raised the bar in his honor. Well, he slept through his flu-like symptoms or whatever.
Yes, amazing. Emily, how were you feeling going into the show last night?
I was really excited. I kind of agree. Detroit is Showhio, effectively.
Thank you. Pretty much.
And everybody, a lot of people know, Ohio and Michigan storied history with each other, and I'm sure a lot of Michiganders would take offense to what you said, but as an Ohioan, I'm sure that sounds great. I was really excited. I live in Youngstown, Ohio, so it's a quick 3.5-hour drive from me. I've gone to I did a couple SPAC shows this summer, which was like a 7-hour drive. So this felt like a breeze. I got on the road yesterday around like 10 and just very excited to listen, broke the rules and listened to some Goose on the way there. Right. Caught up on some of those Boston shows. I guess I didn't realize that Detroit was supposed to be the tour opener and that they announced the Boston shows later. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it's unclear as to if they had the Boston shows and they just couldn't announce them until after Levitate. But yeah, you think that was?
Yeah, it was a radius clause for sure, because they announced them at Levitate in July. And we knew there were going to be dates, you know,
Right.
and Borderland was also already on the books.
Yeah.
But yeah, last night was cool. It seemed like,
Yeah.
you know, it felt like a Showhio kind of vibe. You know, Neil, how were you feeling going into last night's show?
So last night I was still tired from the Boston run.
Oh my God, you're really you're suffering.
We stayed up way too late after Thursday night. I mean, it was awful. We walked like several miles, stayed up too late, hit a few bars. Friend of the pod, Avi Sage, was there. He was bringing us around the city of Boston. I don't even think he lives here, but he was taking me, a 27-year citizen of this city, to places I'd never even heard of before.
What parts of Boston?
We were downtown. I never go.
Oh, cool.
So.
How were the clams?
I did not eat any clams. I did have. I split 14 oysters with my cousin before Thursday night show. Not a good idea. That's too many oysters before a show. But in any case, we're not talking about the other day.
Yeah, I was going to say, last night. We talked about Boston already.
Yeah. So, no, man, I was just kind of hanging out around the house here. Took a late afternoon nap. And then tuned right into the show. And yeah, that was it, man. And boy, was it a good show. Like, I'm really excited to talk about the show. I think my only regret about this show is that I didn't have a chance to re-listen to it like 3 times before we talk about it, which is not what we do on the show. But I really want to talk about this music because it is very good. This is a very, very good Goose show. And I think everybody who went was lucky.
Yeah.
And sorry to Haps who couldn't make it. That is a shame. But they played a good one in his honor. So
yeah. Well, let's start off with the first few songs here. You know, we got Turbulence. I think a lot of people saw that coming as the opener tonight, last night, followed by The Whales, and then Wisteria, which, you know, pretty huge for a 3-slot Wisteria. But Emily, how are you feeling on these first 3 songs?
So I agree. I was in a group on the GA floor. So there was the pit, GA floor, and then GA balcony. And our Max in our group was saying that he was feeling a turb opener, and it's always really exciting when somebody in your group, you know, calls something, then it happens, everybody gets excited. And I love that song. I love that whole like quad of songs that I think of together: Turbulence, Mr. Action, Dr. Darkness, and
Atlas Dogs.
Atlas Dogs. Correct.
I was just guessing there. All right,
it is.
Awesome.
I think of it because they're like openers, right? Neil's talked about this before on the pod, that they're just like classic opener songs. And so I love that one. I think it's a fun sing along. And there's going to be a theme to what I say, I think, about a lot of songs. It just seems like there's a lot of like extra mustard on definitely The Whales. I loved what they did at the end, like the jam at the end. I don't know. I guess sometimes I can like talk down on like the mushy songs, but that song has kind of grown on me, as well as Honey. What's the other one I like that I didn't used to like? I don't know. They just played it the other night. I forget. It's another Animal song.
Is it Animal?
No, it's not Animal. It might be Honeybee.
Anyway,
but I loved it. I thought it was the first 2 were really good. And then, I mean, I feel like we just need a whole other segment to talk about Wisteria. But if you want me to go on about Wisteria right now, I can.
That's what we're here for. Please go on about Wisteria.
I thought it was excellent. So it was my first live Goose show first live Goose song I ever saw at my first show in Worcester on 10/30/21. And I really loved it then. I love kind of the weird, spooky sound of Wisteria. And I just thought they really took it places. My notes say that it was very wavy. I don't really know what that means. Very, like, I don't know, a kind of a Deddy jam somewhere in there, more towards the second half. And then I heard kind of like a tweezery kind of jam at the end too. But I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. I listened to it twice on the ride home. Has a lot of listen back ability to it. And Yeah, I really like it. Side note, does anybody know if there's any connection to Desperate Housewives? Do you guys remember that show? Ryan
I do know
because he's like
I do know of the show, but
I don't
maybe.
think there is.
So the street that they lived on,
Lane?
correct? Yeah, the street that they lived on was Wisteria Lane, but it was spelled with a W-I instead of a Y.
This is a good question to ask Trevor, who wrote the song.
Yeah, okay. I bet you T's a big fan. He's probably binged that shit.
So, all right. So someday, we've now had 2 band members on the pod. So someday when we have Trevor on, we will ask him, if there's a Desperate Housewives connection.
It's a burning question.
For that, Emily. Jeff, how are you feeling on these first 3 songs? Turbulence, Whales, Wisteria.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack in the Wisteria, but Turbulence, always a great opener. Emily, good job by your friend and the crew calling that. Always a good opener. Whales, I'm a fan of Whales. Always like Whales. I seem to see it a lot, and I'm okay with that. And to echo what Emily said about Extra Mustard, that kept popping through my head a lot. Like, I think by middle of the second set, I just had that like saying stuck in my head. It was like every single song has Extra Mustard in it.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the middle of that Whales, during the 2 guitar Goose jamming, Peter just really locked into something, and it's almost like the energy in the room clicked. And sometimes when you get really good two guitar Goose going early in a show, it just sets a tone, and the rest of the night takes off. And that absolutely happened there. And then he didn't put his guitar away after it because he stayed out for Wisteria. More 2 guitar Goose. And I mean, I haven't listened back to it enough to really speak intelligently to it. It felt like a multi-part Odyssey type jam that had a lot going on, a lot of different cool textures explored, but with Rick in the forefront through it. Kind of to go along those lines, I don't know if it was like this in the entire building, but certainly where I was in the building, on the Peter side, like 3rd row right up off the pit on Peter's side. The sound mix there was very, very Rick forward. So, I heard Rick vocally and instrumentally at the front of the mix over there. Could hear everybody else too, but he was very forward in the mix through it. So, I'm going to keep talking about how this is a Rick-centric show, and maybe that's just because of the way that I heard it. But going back and listening to what I've been able to so far on my run, that seems to check out. Everybody's playing well and adding a lot, but the Extra Mustard was Rick pushing hard, doing. I kind of hate the saying Guitar God, but I don't know what else to say right now. I mean, Rick was in Guitar God mode last night.
Yeah,
and
shred master.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like every song, like every little normal solo in a song, even he pushed it a little bit harder and stretched it in different ways than normal. I mean, he was feeling 100%. It, and the crowd was responding to it. And then, so to get back to this Wisteria, they did cool things, right? They did cool things. But then at the end, it seemed like it was about to be over.
Yes.
And then Peter kept going and doing something interesting, percussive on his piano. And Rick just kind of looked at him and started laughing. I don't know if he expected the song to end or couldn't believe that Peter was doing what he was doing. It looked almost like like he was going into some different song, trying to transition into something. Because at one point I thought I saw Rick trying to read lyrics on his monitor and nodding to himself, getting himself psyched up to sing some song. And maybe this was all in my head, but then they jammed out and did just this cool little thing, which it was my favorite part of the night. It was just so out of left field, weird little improv bit right before they dropped into Electric Ave. And yeah, that was my personal show highlight from an improv standpoint, but it was cool. And
I heard that too, Jeff.
Excellent.
It wasn't in your head, I promise.
Yeah, I loved that little outro that Peter did. I didn't catch the webcast last night, so I listened to the show this morning. But yeah, it was really cool. It did feel like the Wisteria was wrapping up, and it's one of those jams where I kind of look at it and I'm like, oh, there's still 6 minutes left here, and it feels like they're ending. And I loved the piano. Neil, you had a really great kind of parallel here to a familiar jam theme.
Yeah, I mean, it had that kind of descent chord progression that you would expect from a Mind Left Body jam. So it wasn't quite Mind Left Body, but it had that same vibe to it. And maybe that's what gave Rick a chuckle, because I feel like Peter is the one who introduces that every time that comes into a Goose Jam.
100%.
I mean, first time I remember hearing it was in Elizabeth way back 9/17/20. And then I
also
think Peter was the instigator there.
The 125/20 hot tea. There's a little bit of that.
That's right. That's right. I hadn't even thought about that. So yeah, really cool wisteria here. I think you get a lot of like the hot wisteria, kind of like Ryman wisteria, just like churning and like attacking. And I don't know, like you said, it's a very Rick forward show. Every once in a while, he will just put the band on his shoulders and just go bananas. And he absolutely does that in the show. He does it in this wisteria, and then he does it again in the second set with just about every note that he played. I mean, it was outrageous. And we'll talk about this more later, but I definitely hear a sea change in his sound from Boston.
These new pickups, man.
Last night. So yeah, the new pickups, which I think you know more about than I do.
All I know is that they're new. I don't know any background on them. But the other day, it was brought to my attention that he had new pickups. They're not just covers on the old pickups. They're totally new pickups. They've been in since Boston Night 2. And yeah, they sound amazing.
Yeah, so that's interesting that you bring that up, right? Because I said last night to my ear, it sounded very different than Boston, and then also sounded very different than Borderlands.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's
what's going on in his rig.
But I'm sure there's other stuff being tweaked, and I know that the current iteration with like the two cabinets on either side and the rack double amp thing, that's still just a stop on the way. They're not going to be. He and front of house engineer Eric Loomis and some other outside consultants are working very hard on the rig, and I know that's why there will be a new rig tour from Rick, hopefully beginning of 2024. Once this is completed, but I know that they've been working very hard on that. But let's keep going through the set. We've got Electric Avenue and Redbird closing out the first set here. Jeff, please save the beautiful prose about the Redbird for your jam chart entry, which I look forward to reading. But how did you feel about these last two songs of the set?
Electric Ave, it was cool to see. I was happy when they dumped into it. That's a song that I think they just show like this a Saturday night with a ton of first timers. Electric Ave is just a song that like everybody's familiar with and people get excited about it. I know there are those that have their feelings about it as a cover choice or whatever.
Jive Goose isn't here, Jeff. No, nobody can hurt your opinion.
I'm not naming any names. We're in a safe space. But I like it, and I think it served that purpose very well to like take people in the room that were starting to feel it but needed something more familiar to really bring them in, and that was the moment that I think brought any of the crowd that was only half sold by then became fully sold during that, and it was and they actually rocked it out a little bit harder than they normally do. There was some of that extra mustard in this Electric Ave. So totally cool with that. Redbird, I'm a big fan of Redbird and things that they do with Redbird. I am always happy to hear Redbird. And always excited to see where they're going to take it and what type of crazy movies it's going to create in my mind. And, like the Redbird last night, it kind of, I've seen people chattering about it online some today already. It kind of went into that, Reba jam / cross-eyed intro jam, whatever you want to call it. It kind of went into that space, to some extent at the end, most certainly. But even before it got to that, it went into just this really, just this menacing, churning, snarling guitar jam that was really, really, really impressive to me. I mean, just it incredibly energetic, just evil burning Goose, and I was really, really, really into that. And then yes, it did eventually transition into some of that cross-eyed intro type jam, but not in the way that they've done it with a couple of other Redbirds where they've gone there, which was Cincy New Year's and then
Westville. Yeah,
did it. So, but with those, I feel like they really kind of like moved into like the kind of like slow build, beautiful part of that Reba Jam type thing. Whereas this, they skipped all the beautiful slow build part and kind of went right from the menacing straight into just like the peaking of it. And it was just like this digital wash of guitar intensity that came right out of that menacing jam. Like they skipped the really pretty slow build stuff and just got like right to the intense meat of it and just kept going and going and going with it. I don't know. I still have to take it all in. I need to listen like 10, 15 more times before I can say any more than that. But
okay, so really stay tuned. Around 8 months from now, when Jeff births his jam chart entry. And if anyone is confused what I'm talking about, you should go to lgoose.net and check out the jam charts for the song Redbird, because they need to be read to be believed. I totally agree with your point about Electric Avenue. I think it kind of felt that way with at Portland to Boost last year, where they were kind of like throwing a familiar cover out there, things people would know, especially for, you mentioned like the last time they played in Detroit, and even Royal Oak last spring was pretty, only like 1,000, 2,000 people in that theater. This is a pretty big level up, 5K at the Masonic last night. So really cool to see them do that. And yeah, this Redbird was excellent. Emily, what are your thoughts on these last two songs of the first set?
So usually when I listen to this pod, I don't really agree with Jive Goose. I tend to not agree with his takes, but I do kind of agree. I'm not the biggest Electric Avenue fan. I definitely understand the points about bringing in a newer crowd with a familiar song. I think and like the lights were really fun, like very rainbowy, just good times, good vibes, party Goose. So one of my favorite podcasts, it's the intro music for it. So it like always kind of like reminds me of that. But yeah, just like not my favorite cover. That's okay. It's not all about me. And I also think there's just something, I think it's fun when they do a cover a la Inside Out, right? That's like a song that not everybody knows, maybe by a band that a lot of people have heard of, but not everybody knows that song. That's not Spoon's, most famous song or anything. And I kind of like it, me personally as a fan, when I'm at a show, even if it's a show that I'm new to the band, walking away with a new song, right? Like I like that feeling of like, oh, I've never heard that song before. I'm going to go back and listen to the original artist version, and then I'm going to get obsessed with the Goose version. And I don't know, I kind of like that, but I it's fair that not everybody does, and not everybody's there for that. So, but it was fun regardless. Redbird, loved Redbird. I think I like Redbird more every time I listen to it. I think the first time I listened to it, I was like, what the frick is this? Like, what are these Goose guys doing with this song? I think it was probably young Ryan's video of him like singing it on Twitter.
There are many of those for Redbird.
Great bird.
But it is a very, very good song, and I love Evil Goose. I love, that I was totally into that, and I thought that was a really good point of the set to do that kind of, I guess, evil, dark kind of sound. I didn't expect the set to end there. I really thought they were going to do one more quick hit before ending the set, but I loved it. I thought it was a really great song. Another question, is that a round? So, like a musical round when they're doing like, and it's time for, and then Rick
That's a vocal round. Yes.
Is it a vocal round?
Yeah.
Is it, because I was thinking, is a round, does it have to be 3 verses, or can a round be 2 verses?
I don't know.
Like that? Well,
I just know that that's a vocal round. Yeah.
Another question for Trevor.
Another question for people who know more than we do.
Music theorists
Neil,
out there.
Neil, Electric Avenue and Redbird.
Yeah, not much that I can say that hasn't been said already. This Electric Avenue is very good. I love vocal rounds. My nemesis is Vickers. In case you're wondering, there's a lot of chatter about who is my nemesis. It is Vickers, of course.
Okay.
But I digress. So yeah, Electric Avenue was very good. It's had a good jam in it. It was actually, it's worth listening to. I think, Emily, you already said this word, but I'm going to repeat it a couple times in this when talking about this show, is it has the re-listenability all the way through. So I am not the type of person that goes back and listens to Electric Avenue. If I'm listening to the show, I'm not skipping it. The jam is that good in it. And then, of course, the Redbird, Jeff talked about a bunch of things. I agree. I think that the catchy, most, I guess, recognizable part of that song is the Reba jam, the cross-eyed intro jam. But really the best part of it is what comes before that. There's like a griminess to the jam that comes prior to that I just absolutely love. I can't wait to go back and listen to that one. But yeah, that was that jam highlight of the night for me, man, was that Redbird. And it's not the piece that everybody's going to be talking about. It is what comes before.
Yeah, that's like the San Francisco Wisteria. Not that the first part of it is better, but there's a very overlooked, amazing Bliss jam before the super evil stuff. So fun fact, if you didn't know about that, now you know. Then we get some really, really funny going into set break banter, while they're still kind of wrapping up the jam. I wasn't watching, obviously I didn't see the webcast, but Jeff walked off a little early, it seemed.
I couldn't really see it.
Emily said she didn't expect the set to end then. I don't know that the band expected the set to end then.
That's amazing.
Sometimes when you gotta go, you gotta go. Would you like to tell? Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell the story.
Please tell the story.
So last night when the set ended, I was like, that was a 5-song, 70-minute set, but a 69-minute set for Jeb. 30 seconds later, Jeb is like, nailed it. So he's tweeting from the bathroom after running off
Presumably
stage.
The bathroom.
Presumably the bathroom. I mean, who knows where
Maybe
he
he had to go for a walk. You never know.
But yeah, he had to relieve himself. Good for him. I don't know. That was really, really funny. And then you get a lot of banter from Rick, which almost never happens. So, and when it does, it's always hilarious. So that was a pretty great moment.
He let us know we could go use the restroom if we needed to.
Yeah,
get a drink.
Very nice of them. Very nice of them. And there was enough time. So let's get started on set 2 here. We've got Yeti, we've got Born, we've got Hunger Sight. Pretty nice way to start off. Emily, why don't you start us off here? Powerful Yeti, and then the classic album Born Hunger Sight pairing with Large Jam.
So yeah, we got some more 2-guitar Goose. You saw Peter come out to begin the second set, and he's up there with his guitar. So I said, what are they going to play? I've seen Yeti a couple times. I feel like I've never seen a finished Yeti. So I think that was my first full Yeti. Again, like just very fun. It's so kind of this is an original thought. Kara said this, and I was like, that is nail on head. Hammer on. Anyway. It felt like a festival Goose set, like elongated. It was just a fun, like very, very party fun show in general. And I thought coming out second set opener with Yeti was just boom, right out the gate. Very, very fun. So yeah, I liked it. It's very, very fun. And I don't my prior Yetis that I saw live, I have not had the re-listenability to because they're unfinished, and I don't know. It didn't click with me, but I loved hearing the full song, and I loved the jam. I thought it was really fun. Born, in my notes wrote down Born the Good Kind, because this is my favorite. I love when they play this, this version of Born. I don't know, and I wrote Rick is Daddy. Again, yeah, just like very
fair enough.
Just shred fest. His solo in that song was so good, and it's just such a good song. It's to me kind of a ballad, but it's not, and I like that. I'm really into the lyrics when it comes to songs. I mean, I guess I could blame like Robert Hunter for that, but lyrics are really, really important to me, and I think the lyrics to Born are so gorgeous. And it has kind of that, like a ballad feel to it with still being a rocker, and I loved it. I loved that. And then I thought the Hunger Site was out of this world. I've seen a good amount of Hunger Sites, and I said that to somebody, and they were like, "Oh, I thought it was a pretty standard Hunger Site." What are you listening to? I thought it was really, really, really good. I don't have like the technical. It was just sick. I'll say what Cam would say.
Yeah.
It was really sick.
Excellent.
I just really, really liked it.
Excellent jam for sure.
Yeah,
Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeti, Born Hunger Site.
Hey, quick! All right, I'm excited. I just found out that I'm going to see Death Cab in the Postal Service tonight.
Oh,
so yeah,
sick.
got a little text fly across my screen. So yeah, so I got distracted there. Yeah, that's different than the show I was going to go to tonight, but it's an upgrade. All right, so Yeti, I would just like to state that a dear friend of mine, 13-year-old Julian, who came with a dear friend of mine, told me after the show last night that Yeti was his favorite part of the show. And this kid is like mega King Giz fan, and this was his first Goose show, and he came out of it loving Yeti. He woke up this morning, hopped out of bed, and immediately threw on Yeti and played it super loud for the whole house. So this is what I heard from my friend. So at any rate, Goose, you've made 13-year-old Julian super duper happy with that killer Yeti that started the second set last night. I took in the show last night with B Dunn and Becca and Katie, and B Dunn and I were kind of talking all day about how we were just sure there was going to be a Yeti opener last night. It just felt like that Saturday night Yeti vibe, and then if it wasn't an opener, it was going to be the second set opener. So ended up being that. And Hunger Site, similar to the Wisteria, it was just another big multi-part odyssey. I'm not even done re-listening to it. I was about halfway through it right before jumping on this pod, so I can't say too much about it other than Emily, your friend who said that it's a standard Hunger Site, they might actually even be right about that for a 2023 Hunger Site, which is to say
it's a high bar.
Awesome. But like, because every single time they play it this year, it's just Bangerville, and it's almost always 15 plus minutes, and I think it was like 24 minutes last night, and it's always multi-part. And
not 28.
In 28 was it? Yeah, and
it was not. It was not 28.
It was not.
We'd like to specify there was some confusion. Rock the Casbah was tracked within Hunger Site for a little while. I believe that has been fixed now. But no, Hunger Site was around 23, 24 minutes when all was said and done.
Yeah, and last thing I have to say about that Hunger Site is, the clams were strong. There were some very, very strong clams during the Hunger Site.
I agree. I was quite enjoying the clam tweets this morning as I was listening to it. That would have been if I was at the show or watching the show, there would have been repeated clam tweets. Am I right, Neil?
I'm not eating clams in Detroit, bro. That's not a thing I'm ever gonna do.
No. They brought them in their luggage. It's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They've been bringing them since Boston. Neil, you got any more? You got any thoughts on these?
Let's see here. Yeti opener. It's old school. Right? There was a time recently where Yeti was played every third show, and now we get it every 7 or 8. So
yeah,
that's cool. I mean, like you start to miss Yeti. I think there's some folks who were tired of Yeti. I think of Jive Goose. Those people. And like, I'm not tired of Yeti. It comes so rarely now that when it does come, I'm excited about it. I love Pete songs. They're all awesome. I love great blues songs that became Goose songs. And then, yeah, so Born, my only, well, so the slide guitar's back. So that's cool. That was gone for a really long time. And I was wondering if it was coming back in Boston. So the wind was so strong in Boston that like it was like enough to almost knock you over at points. But it was really nice because it was like hot and steamy on night one. Then you get a big gust of wind, and then you feel better. But Peter's slide went flying off of the Nord that night, and like it almost landed.
Wow.
It thankfully hit a cable on the stage and like stopped rolling. But so I had seen it the other night, and then sure enough, they started playing Born. The slide was back, so that's exciting because I think that is actually an element of that song that is really good, and I don't know why they got away from it. So that's cool. I mean, this wasn't Louisville Born, so that makes me sad. But I guess the jump right into Hunger Site was cool. You get a very, very good Hunger Site. Again, a bunch of different sections. That's what we've come to expect from Hunger Site in 2023. So just kind of doubling down what you all have said, like that is a standard Hunger Site, which is to say it's
high bar.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, amazing set so far. I mean, this is an amazing set. This is a good set of music. You're starting with high energy. You're playing one of your best songs and then another one of your best songs right after each other. I mean, if you ask me, like those are the radio hits, right? You got Born and Hunger Site one after another. And in a way, like I think in terms of like pop sensibility, Born is the more catchy song of the two. So killer, man. What a great show so far. And so Emily, like you were saying, it's just like right now it's just fun. Like this is a fun set of music so far.
Yeah. And you guys mentioned it, but yeah, I have in my notes at the end, Clav Heaven. It was just like so fucking soupy and lovely. Like could live there. I loved it. I loved that.
Clav is a good instrument, in my opinion. I don't know if people know that I feel
you haven't made that clear.
Well, let's continue on here. Start with you, Jeff. We got Rock the Casbah 726 Arrow with the first ever Silver Rising encore. Jeff, take me through the rest of the show.
Casbah ripped. I think it was my first time seeing it, and it's always fun to see Jeff sing and to see him get really into it. And I thought that Rick sounded just particularly good during this Casbah too. Like something about his guitar tone, it was really, really incredible. I haven't gone back and listened to it yet, but at least live and in the moment, I mean, it was really impressive. And then, I mean, 726 is my favorite song. So, it might not even be just like favorite Goose song anymore. It might be moving into like favorite ever song. So, as soon as they started up that intro, I mean, I casually lost it a little bit, hugged the people around me and then just soaked it in and enjoyed the extra mustard that Rick really put into that. I mean, everybody sounded good in it, but I mean, this 726 was elite. I mean, they pushed it to the heavens. Like it went heavy, high, and hard at the end, and loved every moment. But between getting that and that Redbird in the same night, like they could have played no other rest of show, and I would have been happy.
The only thing you were missing was a Hollywood Nights.
Go beyond that too.
Was that question for you, Jeff? If they went from 726 into Hollywood Nights, was the shirt coming off?
I mean, I'm not saying no.
Awesome. You got any thoughts on Arrow and Silver Rising Encore here?
Sure. Really good Arrow. I mean, Arrow has been elite this year. I mean, like there have been 3 of them that have been so good that but when they started a late second set Arrow, I mean, just like at Resonance, when they opened up, when they started an Arrow, I mean, I was super duper pumped for it. And here I was super pumped to hear Arrow again. It was a really good one. I don't know if it quite hit the same levels as the 3 elite ones of the year so far, but it was really, really good, and, yeah, so to have an Arrow and a Born that were both, I guess the Born didn't even really jam, but I won't get into Born. I skipped Born earlier. I won't talk about Born, but
you're already past
it. Yeah, I mean, this Arrow was really, really good. Is it maybe the Arrow number 4 of the year? It might just be. It was good. It was very, very strong. Can't speak intelligently to it though because I haven't listened back to it.
Noted.
And
Thank you.
Silver Rising is always a hit. I think they had Tumble in the encore slot on the set list and Silver Rising to close the first set. So Tumble got dropped. They moved Silver Rising into the encore. Silver Rising's such a great Saturday night song and just a big banger of a ballad. I thought it worked great in that encore slot, and the crowd felt it too. I mean, like I was looking around during the round part.
There's another round.
Another round, yeah. And I was looking around at the crowd because the lights were on kind of high, and I was just like watching all these stunned faces taking it in, and just kind of enjoying like the last few minutes of this show, and it was a really good feeling to just watch this crowd just stunned by the majesty and power of what was probably the first Silver Rising that 3/4 of the people in that room had ever seen live, if not even heard. So yeah, really, really.
Yeah,
very, very cool. Emily, why don't you take me through how you felt Casbah, 726, Arrow, Silver Rising?
Yeah, so I thought Casbah was really fun. Not much to say else about it. I mean, neither of the covers really hit for me last night. Not to say I like loved this show. I agree with what we said at the beginning. I thought it was a just really good show, and I agree with what Neil said. Like if and when I re-listen to the show, there's not going to be skips. I'm going to be listening to the whole thing. But if I had to choose, this just I don't have any nostalgic attachment to this song, but it's fun. Again, it goes with the theme. Very much a party. 726. I'm right with Jeff. It is one of my favorite songs. Definitely one of my top favorite Goose songs. I really wanted it this summer at Asbury Park, and then this guy requested it for his birthday at Peach Fest, and it got snatched from me. No.
Yeah, what a dick.
No. But it's just like, yeah.
It's very gone up to Maine. Didn't they do it again?
Did they? I mean, yeah. If only I could keep going. But I really love it, and it's a says it right there, like it's a quintessential, at least in my mind, like an end of the summer song. And so what a cool way to like put it at the beginning of fall tour, because we're all still feeling those summer feelings, even though they're slipping away fast. But yeah, very emotional. Really, really, really loved it there, and I heard it coming immediately, and so I was very glad that they actually played it. Arrow is my most played or most heard Goose song, and I like Arrow a lot. I like that spot for Arrow. I like a set 2 closer for Arrow. It gives it a lot of room to move and get big, and I mean, I felt like it was never ending. I thought it was going to be like a 30-minute. I thought I was going to clock in at 30 minutes. It clocked in at what, like 28. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I was surprised to hear that Silver Rising, that was its first encore. I mean, I obviously can't think of another show that it encored, but it's a great encore. I think it's a great in the encore spot. I love to howl during that song, and so like to end a show with howling, like that's so much fun. And yeah, just a beautiful version of it. One of my favorite Goose songs as well. If I can't get a Drip Field, I love getting a Silver Rising. And it was just when the lights went out, I just didn't want it to be over. When it's a one-stop show like that, and it's just
Yeah.
like come up. You're just like, why isn't there a night 2? Like,
right.
why,
it's like, yeah, why am I only doing one show here?
And
you know,
it was kind of, I mean, this, you know, the song lengths obviously, you know, made it so that it wasn't like a lot of songs, but it was only 12 songs. So
is it unreasonable to hope for 2 nights next time?
I mean, I don't think it is. I mean, we showed out
here maybe, but like,
yeah,
would 2 nights in Detroit be unreasonable for
I
the
don't
future?
think so.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's
could
part
happen.
of the country.
The Ohio of Michigan.
Right.
It's true. The Ohio of Michigan. Thank you for echoing that sentiment, Jeff. I appreciate it. Despite Neil's skepticism, we all know it's true, and I want to highlight a comment from David Miller here. It reminded me of the vibes on 12/31/22. Well, guess where 12/31/22 took place, Neil? Do you know where that show was?
I don't know, man.
It was in Ohio.
Oh, Ohio.
And I wonder why the vibe last night kind of felt like that. Is it because Detroit is the Ohio of Michigan? Definitely.
No,
Michigan
man, Cincinnati is the Covington of Ohio.
Okay.
Whoa.
And Detroit is the Ohio of Michigan.
It's Kentucky.
It all makes the same amount of sense.
Your analogy, nope, doesn't work. Can I talk about the music? Do you mind if
I
do that?
Talk about the music.
Right. So, Rock the Casbah, amazing. So when your drummer is like hanging out with folks at a bar before the show, and then comes in hot, and then has to run off stage at the end of the first set to hit the bathroom, presumably, you definitely make that guy sing a song in the second set.
Wasn't American Woman.
And make him sing it. And, you know, I love it anytime they do this song. This is played, I think, at my second show ever. And love Jeff singing. Get him singing more. We need more Jeff on vocals. He really needs to stretch those muscles, you know? But, yeah, that was cool. And then, let's see here. Losing my train of thought here. Oh, yeah, 726. This brings me to a thought that I had earlier. It was right about Born in this set that I really took notice of Rick's guitar tone. And I was like, wow, this is something. And then again, like in Hunger Side, I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And then it's kind of just on this arc where like in 726, I was just like, oh my God. And like, I was tweeting about it last week, like, what the hell happened? Like a switch was flipped and that guitar sounded like an entirely different instrument. It was something. And I think Rick has been on this journey to find his tone. And there have been highs and lows. I think you think back to when he played with Trey on stage at Radio City Music Hall, it was very obvious that he needed to work on his tone.
Even more so during Taboos. Like Radio City, it wasn't as bad, but in Taboos, the way those shows sounded, like, you know, listening back to the Portland All I Need or any of the other sit-ins, it's very apparent that Rick's tone, while at the time it didn't sound within the context of Goose, like it was like kind of soft. When you put it next to Trey's tone, it was like, wow, like Rick's guitar really sounds like nothing.
It did not sound good in comparison, right? Just juxtaposing those two tones showed that he had a lot to do. And it's been a journey, right? Highs and lows. I think people have a lot to say about Rick's new guitar. I don't know if I have those harsh words that a lot of those people do, but their ears are different than mine. And I think there are people I respect quite a bit who have huge issues with the new guitar and how it sounded. Last night, though, that's perfect. You can't convince me that is not the direction we want to be going in with this tone. 100%. This is such good stuff. Good. And so, like, if you really want to hear it, if you really want to hear this thing just like running like a top, it is that right there, that 726. I mean, absolutely killer version. I mean, not like, you know, we talk about jams all the time on the show. This is not like a jam, but like I am going back and listening to this like a zillion times.
Yeah.
So like this is, you know, it's like the Peach Tumble. I keep going back and listening to it because it's such a good piece of music. It just sounds great. I mean, it is an all-timer jam. Nope, doesn't need to be.
Doesn't need to be.
That is the beauty of this band. You've heard me say it a million times. Sometimes just their execution of songs is just so good, and you have to go back to it. It's not about improv in this case. It is just about how good they sound as a band performing songs.
Yeah, like a gorgeous version.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous version.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's 726. I won't talk much about Arrow other than like I was one of the people who really enjoyed that Arrow last night. You know, I was also one of the people who used to be a heavy critic of Arrow way back in 2021 and 2022 because I felt like sonically it always sounded similar. But they took the song in the shop, they've taken it back out. They have fresh ideas every time they play the song. I mean, listen to the breadth of arrows that have been played this year. They all sound so different. I mean, you have like Ryman Arrow with like Peter just going absolutely insane on the synth, and then like there's this arrow which has got a lot of heat, and then it's got a lot of loops from Rick, and there's bits and pieces there that keep you excited about the song. And this one is also great. So again, back to what I was saying to repeating Emily's point about re-listenability. This Arrow listenability, this whole show. I mean, this is really, if it's not the best show they've played all year, it's one of the best shows they've played all year. And
big take here from Neil.
I'll say it. Hey,
I love it though.
Look at the set list. Look at the quality of the music, not just the jams. And then the choices of songs. So to finish my thought, this Silver Rising encore, they couldn't have picked anything better for this moment. It was genius. Could they have thrown a tumble in there? Sure. Would that have been really fun? Yes. They needed a cool down after that Arrow. They saved that Silver Rising in their back pocket. And I think it was going to be a 50-50. Like, do we need to rage at the end? We're going to play the tumble. And if we don't need to rage at the end, we're gonna play that Silver Rising. They didn't need to rage because they just absolutely blew the roof off the place. They play a beautiful Silver Rising that has triumph, Ryan, quite a bit of triumph, and just like it was a perfect topper on a show. Sometimes it all just falls into place, and I think last night that's exactly what happened.
Amazing. Well, Neil, like I mean, I really have nothing to add after that. That was beautiful. I really think like that's like that's a Jeff Redbird jam chart entry level of discourse right there. Well, thank you. Like, I mean, really, really amazing fourth quarter there. Again, super solid Arrow, and I think this is absolutely last night was one of the best shows of the year. And speaking of best shows of the year, the last time they played in the state of Wisconsin was absolutely one of the best shows of the year. Madison back in April, and they're back tonight in Milwaukee at a theater that has multiple beer brands associated with it. So we'll see what happens. That's a recipe for excitement, I think. But we'll be back. We're wrapping up.
Wisconsin drunk, as Matt would say.
Yes, exactly. No shortage of options.
So hey, get ready tonight. Doctor My Eyes, right? If we believe in the Madison theory, we're getting the Doctor My Eyes tonight. So get ready for that.
Well, his theory was the States, but they did it in Madison, so maybe they'll do it in Milwaukee too. We'll see what happens. But we're wrapping up our first 5 shows of the tour, 5 shows in 5 nights. I'm sure the band is ready for a day off tomorrow. So I'm sure that they'll bring it tonight, the 5th night of a 5-night run. Historically, they bring the heat. And we will be back tomorrow to talk about tonight's show. Of course, we are moving out of the Eastern time zone. We now do not have another Eastern time zone Goose show until Goosemas, which is interesting and, not ideal for those of us on couch tour like Vickers, who, he's shunned his usual 7:30 p.m. bedtime the last couple of nights. So we'll see how he does. But we'll be back here tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Show tonight, I believe showtime is 9:00 Eastern. Probably go on around 9:30. It's 8:30 Milwaukee time. But we've got a good crew there, and so we're looking forward to chatting with them about it tomorrow. But thank you, Emily and Jeff, for joining us today.
Guys.
It's been a pleasure having you both on.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your night, whether you're couch touring, whether you're at the show. Of course, if you're there, share your favorite moments with us. Tag us on socials at AAT Goose Pod. But we will see you in 23 hours to talk about tonight's show in Milwaukee. Goose vibes. Thank you, Emily.
This little girl named Ren gave this to me. She was so cute.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Have a phenomenal rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we will see you